Welcome to General Biology. Today's presentation is going to be on relationships. So a lot of times we call these relationships symbiotic relationships. And symbiosis literally means, sym means together, and bio means life. And so symbiotic means living together. One of those relationships we see is mutualism. Mutualism is a relationship where both organisms benefit from the relationship. So in this particular situation, the bee and the flower both benefit. The bee is going to get pollen and nectar from the flower. It's also going to get the pollen all over its legs and spread pollen to other flowers. And so this coneflower is going to fertilize another coneflower when the bee carries the pollen to the other coneflower. This is a plover picking out all the junk that's in the teeth of a crocodile. So basically this plover gets food and the crocodile gets a little hygiene. This is one of my favorite symbiotic relationships. These are acacia ants. They live in thorn acacia trees. And they actually live in the thorns of these trees. And the tree feeds the ant. So it feeds them nectar, but it also gives them these little beads of food at the end of their leaves for their babies to grow on. And the ant, in return, protects the plant from predation. The ants will basically attack and try to kill or throw off anything that lands on the acacia. Another relationship we see is commensalism. Commensalism is one of those relationships where one organism benefits and the other one really isn't harmed or benefited. So in this particular case, we think the clownfish is going to benefit from living in the anemone. The anemone really doesn't benefit. It's not harmed by it. But the clownfish definitely is protected from predation by staying down in the anemone, because if other fish come in, they get stung and are eaten by the anemone. These are pilot fish. They follow around sharks, and when sharks get a kill and they tear sharks will shake their heads back and forth when they kill something because their teeth kind of act like razors. And there's a lot of scraps that get thrown into the water. And the pilot fish will eat the scraps that the shark is creating. And so they follow the shark around, wait for it to kill, and then eat its scraps. The pilot fish benefit. Shark doesn't really matter so much to him. This is another example of commensalism. These are barnacles on the surface of a whale. And if we look up close at a barnacle, what it is actually an organism that has little fingers, and when it's brought into areas where there's lots of plankton, those fingers shoot out and they grab onto the plankton and pull it in, and then the barnacle eats while the whale is eating. The whale is not really harmed by it. It's like a pimple. So it's not really, doesn't affect the whale much. But the barnacle definitely benefits because it's brought into areas where there's lots of food. And then our last relationship we have is parasitism. This is an example of an external parasite. This is a tick. Ticks will land on organisms, including us, and embed their heads into us and suck blood out of our bodies. This is another example of an external parasite. This would be a mosquito. We deal with these a lot in Michigan. This is an internal parasite. This is what we call intestinal worms. If you've ever had to worm your dog or any of your pets, or if you've ever had to be wormed, these would be what the internal or the intestinal worms look like. So that would be an internal parasite. Parasitism is not exclusive to animals. Some plants are parasites. This particular plant is a mistletoe plant, and basically what it does is it grows into the branches of other trees, and then it sucks nutrients from the other tree and kind of grows off the other tree. So it's benefiting by harming the tree. Then our last relationship, which really isn't symbiotic because one of the organisms is living and the other one's dead, is predator-prey. Predator-prey relationships exist in lots of organisms in the wild. This is an example of a cheetah and a gazelle. This is a hunting fox, probably going after a mouse or a rat or a vole or something in the ground, maybe a rabbit. And this is a lynx chasing a snowshoe hare. And what we notice is in the populations when we have predator-prey relationships is that populations of predator and prey are very linked to one another. So when the prey is doing well, we can see down here in our chart, when the prey goes up, the predator goes up. It's slightly behind because it takes a little more time for the predator to catch up. But then when the predator is doing well, the prey goes back down, which causes the predator to go back down, which causes the prey to go back up, which causes the predator to go back up. And those relationships are kind of continuous in the environment. When one organism's doing well, the other one will do well and cause the demise of the other organism. And so it's kind of a constant flux. The populations are going up and down. They're not shooting way up and way down. This is actually the number of furs that were turned into a trading center. So the populations actually don't get down to zero, but the fur trade was much more successful during years when the populations were higher, and it wasn't as successful when the populations went down. And so you kind of get, you can take this and extrapolate it to the actual populations.